Hello, and welcome back to this quiet little space, where each evening we gently open a small doorway into the universe. If you're lying in bed right now or sitting by your window listening to the breath of the night, have you ever wondered how vast the universe truly is? It's always a question that stretches far beyond the reach of imagination. You and I, we are forever tiny pieces of the cosmos, something we often think is distant, yet it whispers beside every breath we take. And tonight, we'll talk about the greatest distances of light, the fastest traveler in the entire universe, becoming small and soft in this quiet evening. There are things we see that feel infinite to human eyes, yet they are merely the thin surface of a bottomless ocean. Beneath that layer of light lie countless unnamed realms, regions no telescope has ever touched. Tonight, I'll take you on a journey that may begin right where you're sitting. Perhaps your familiar backyard, perhaps the soft bed where your eyelids are already growing heavy, and slowly drift all the way to the farthest edges of everything humanity has ever known. Along the way, you and I will glide past structures so immense that they turn our galaxy into a grain of sand. We'll lightly brush the idea that the universe might never end, and from that idea, if the universe truly has no boundary, then perhaps somewhere out there, another version of you is listening to this exact story, in this exact moment. By the time we walk to the end of the road, you'll understand why some of the brightest minds on Earth believe we may be living inside something far greater than any tale humanity has ever told. But before we begin, let me whisper a small reminder. This journey will stretch your imagination in ways you may never have prepared for. We're stepping into a realm of colossal numbers, so large that mathematicians had to invent new symbols just to write them down. Concepts so strange that you might think they belong to science fiction novels. Yet they don't. They are quiet truths, the cold but beautiful architecture of the world we live in. So, if you've ever wondered how small you truly are, or if you wish to feel something that can gently shift the way you look at life, then stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change how you see the universe and yourself forever. Now, let your mind drift softly backward, stepping away from the tangles of the day, away from worries, away from the small shadows that follow us like quiet companions. Imagine yourself lifting gently from the ground. From above, the earth appears like a glowing sphere. The blue of the oceans breathes beneath white clouds that drift slowly across its surface like silver ribbons. Forests, mountains, deserts, all of them blend into a painting that rotates slowly with time. This is our home, a home floating in the vast night sea. So small, and yet so alive it softens the heart. If you listen closely, maybe you'll sense something like a long, deep breath, coming from the earth itself. A breath without sound, without words, felt only through the stillness of your mind, as if this planet is holding us gently in its green-blue arms, nurturing every living being it has carried for billions of years. And then, very slowly, we float a little farther. Earth begins to shrink beneath our gaze, turning from a wide, intricate world into a lonely blue marble drifting in the blackness. Cities, oceans, forests, everything becomes faint patches of color, until suddenly you understand that every joy and sorrow, every life that has ever unfolded on this planet, the things that sometimes feel heavier than the sky, are all contained on a dot so small it could vanish with a blink. Now we drift farther still. Distance stretches like a door swinging open. Earth is no longer a sphere, but a trembling speck of blue light, so tiny you could almost lose it in the darkness. And yet, the softness of this moment comes from realizing that even though it is small, Earth is the only place in this vast night where life wonders about the cosmos. Not the giant stars, not the massive galaxies, but this small stone gave us eyes to see, minds to think, and hearts to love. When we see Earth like this, small but dear, we begin to understand that exploring the universe is not meant to diminish humanity, but to reveal the fragile beauty of our existence. In the endless dark, Earth is like a single warm lantern, and from that lantern we drift onward, a journey that takes us beyond this glowing stone, past the sun, past great orbits, past star fields and deep voids, until we reach the edge of everything. But it all begins with home, a small stone glowing softly in the endless night. In this moment, as Earth shrinks into a tiny blue spark suspended in blackness, something strange begins to grow inside your mind. A lightness, as if your heart has just made space for something larger than itself. When our home appears so small, we stop holding so tightly to our everyday worries. Everything feels reset, softer, lighter, as though we have set down a few unnecessary bags on a long night journey through the universe. From that little dot, we begin to see that Earth is only a humble piece of a far greater picture. And to understand that picture, we must drift farther still, past the planet's edge, past the cold void, to meet Earth's companions in their dance around the sun. Imagine standing at a point suspended far away where there is no gravity pulling you, no sound, just soft emptiness. From there, the solar system appears, like an ancient clock, with planets turning slowly, steadily, around a golden flame at the center. The sun. The sun, from this view, no longer looks fierce or violent. It appears like a large but gentle lantern, glowing in a quiet corner of the universe. A flame that doesn't roar, but warms. Not explosive, but steady. Like a candle in a long winter night, quietly giving warmth to the friends circling around it. And the planets, through our eyes now, look like drifting dots of color in a slow, harmonious dance. Mercury is small and quick like a silver dragonfly. Venus glows pale gold, spinning like a drop of oil on water. Earth, our familiar blue, spins calmly, a breathing speck of dust in the cold. Mars is red, like an ember left after a campfire. Jupiter looks like a vast rolling cloud. Saturn wears its thin silk ring, so beautiful it steals your breath. And farther out, Uranus leans as if asleep. Neptune glows, deep blue, like the unreachable bottom of an ocean. All of them move to their own rhythms, their own stories. Watching them is like listening to a silent symphony, where each planet is a note, each orbit is a soft line of music that can only be heard by a quiet heart. The strange thing is, though each planet has its own personality, they live in perfect harmony. No pushing, no colliding, just soft, timeless motion, trusting the sun to hold the rhythm. From this vantage, we see Earth's true size among its companions. It is a tiny grain of dust, swirling in a vast celestial dance. And here we realize that large is a fragile idea, because always something larger waits ahead. Imagine this: if we shrank the solar system, so the sun became the size of a candle, then Earth would be a grain of dust circling it a few steps away. And while we watch, the candle spreads soft warmth through layer after layer, like invisible rings of comfort, embracing all the planets, including us. The truth that we are floating in space, held in place by invisible threads of gravity, makes the solar system feel less like machinery and more like an enormous pair of arms. Arms made of fire, wide beyond imagination, yet light as breath when seen from afar. And we drift on. From Earth's orbit, we rise higher to see the entire solar system. It now resembles a glowing flower. Sun at the center, planets as petals turning gracefully. A lone flower blooming in the dark sea of the cosmos, lighting itself. If you listen closely, perhaps you can imagine the sound of this motion. Not a real sound, but a feeling, like wind over deserted fields at night, like waves whispering as you lie on the sand. like time flowing slowly. So slowly, you only notice it in your heart, not your ears. And this is only the second step of our journey. For once we see the solar system, we understand that its size is tiny compared to what waits beyond. Everything we've seen, the sun, the planets, the orbits, are just one small shimmer in a far larger painting. Countless lights await us ahead. Stars bigger than the sun, gaps wider than thought, galaxies drifting like glowing boats in the ocean of night. And we will continue, gently, slowly, the way the universe has always invited us. At this distance, watching the solar system turn like a soft flower of light, a tender feeling settles in, a feeling that whispers, perhaps everything we call enormous is only temporary, for something greater always waits beyond. And as we leave the sun behind, dwindling now like a spark of warm gold, we begin to wonder, how large are the other stars? Those older, wilder, deeper fires? As this question rises, light as wind brushing your ear, you feel yourself being lifted again, rising into a wider sea where the meaning of size melts like mist. Let your mind drift far beyond the solar system. The sun, once so mighty, shrinks in your imagination into a tiny grain of glowing sand on a beach of endless stars. A warm, lovely grain, but only a grain. As we move toward larger stars, you see beams of starlight stretching like enormous silk cloths, spreading into soft, shimmering veils. They sway in the darkness like the breath of ancient gods, slow, steady, and patient for our arrival. The first star we meet is Sirius, the brightest in the night sky. From Earth, it looks like a trembling dot, but as we approach, Sirius becomes a brilliant lantern, twice the size of the sun, glowing white like liquid silver. The sun beside it is nothing but a drifting dust mote. We drift farther. Each step is another lesson in humility. Then we meet Pollux, Aldebaran, Arcturus, giant, elderly stars many times larger than the sun, glowing red like great torches, warming a corner of the galaxy. At this point, the sun nearly vanishes in comparison, as though it were a fading spark in memory. But the journey doesn't end here. If we want to know how large the universe can truly become, we must go closer to the real giants, those volcanoes of light, flickering at the edge of human imagination. Beetle appears before us like a massive drop of blue light, dozens of times larger than the sun. Its blue glow isn't cold at all. Rather, it feels soft, like a summer night. It makes our sun seem so small, so tiny, that if Rigel were a colossal sphere, the sun would be nothing more than a delicate smile resting on its face. We move farther still, toward the realm where red supergiants breathe so slowly that 1,000 years to them is nothing but a blink. And then, in the deepest darkness, a name rises like something sacred: Betelgeuse. That star burns red like an ancient sun lit in the heart of winter. Its size is so enormous that, if placed where our sun is now, it would swallow Mercury, Venus, Earth, and even spread beyond the orbit of Mars. A gigantic red sphere of light, soft and glowing, like the burning heart of an old sleeping god. Standing before Betelgeuse, our sun, the tiny flame that nourished all life we know, shrinks into nothing but a drifting mote of dust inside the long exhale of a fiery ocean. But even this is not the end of our path. There exist stars so large that language nearly fails to touch them. Vi Canis Majores, Buiscuti, Stephenson 2:18. Those red mountains of light so tall that the sun, standing beside them, would flicker like a small spark that vanishes after a breath. Imagine it, Genti. If the sun were a single grain of sand, then these supergiants would be mountains of glowing red stretching all the way to the horizon. They are so vast that your gaze has to slow down, widen, take a long, deep breath just to hold them inside your mind. And from all these comparisons, a tender truth emerges. The greatest thing in the universe is not the size of the stars, but the capacity of the human heart to try to understand them. Such immensity does not frighten us. It calms us. Because when we see ourselves as small, life suddenly grows lighter, softer, less rigid, less heavy, as though every worry, work, responsibility, the things left undone, all become tiny grains of dust circling an inner sun. And we realize there is nothing too heavy for us to carry forever. Standing before these giant stars, the universe feels as though it is whispering. You don't need to make yourself large. You only need to shine quietly in your own way. And as we stand in silence before the massive stars that the earlier part of our journey revealed, those blazing red suns swollen like the beating heart of the cosmos, something very special begins to spread through the chest. A feeling both overwhelming and soothing, as though we've stepped beyond all familiar measurements and now stand ready to enter a land where everything surpasses ordinary imagination. In that exact moment, while Betelgeuse and Rigel still shimmer like floating dawns in the darkness, a new question rises softly, like a nighttime call. If these stars are large enough to make the sun vanish in comparison, then what must the largest, most extreme stars ever created by nature be like? That question leads us one more step forward, as gentle as placing a foot upon a layer of stardust. Imagine it slowly, slow enough for the mind to expand. If our sun were nothing more than a small bean resting in your palm, then the supergiants, hidden in the farthest corners of the universe, would stand like towering red citadels. So tall you would have to lift your head endlessly, and still not reach their peaks. They are not the tiny sparkling stars we see in the night sky. They are enormous globes of glowing light, tinted with soft red, burning quietly like hills of fire, illuminated from within. If you were to stand before them, even only in imagination, you would feel something strange. The space around you grows softer, wider, still, as if their light shines not merely to illuminate, but also to remind us of humility. Stars like VY Canis Majoris, US Scuti, or Stevenson 218 are so enormous that ordinary measurements become meaningless. If one of them were placed where the sun is now, its light would spread all the way to Jupiter and even farther. Every planet we know, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, would be swallowed entirely inside that colossal glow, like tiny dust motes sinking into a sea of red fire. Can you imagine such a scene? A vast ocean of light, glowing red, pulsing with the slow breaths of some ancient being, a sleeping giant sun, with each ray of its light a dream spilling into space. In that scene, the sky is no longer the familiar night sky of Earth. It becomes a field of light, stretching from one horizon to the other, like a red valley lit from below. And in the midst of that field, human beings, with their worries, their burdens, their small sorrows, become so small, so light, so small that a single passing breeze could scatter every worry into grains of shimmering dust. Yet the miracle is this: the feeling of smallness doesn't scare us. It relaxes us, much like when we first saw the ocean, overwhelming and yet strangely peaceful. Because we understand that if the universe can hold stars so huge they break every measure, then it's perfectly normal that we can't understand everything. We don't need to understand it all. We only need to look quietly and let the beauty wash over us like cool water. As we walk along that field of light, the supergiants rise and fade like shifting mirages. Each star a world so wide that light itself would need thousands of years to travel from edge to edge. And in each faint step, a very gentle truth returns. Human beings are not born to understand the universe. We are born to be astonished by it. And that astonishment softens the heart, dissolves the tight knots, and makes tonight's sleep deeper, calmer. We pass the last of the colossal stars, like serene travelers crossing a magnificent field, lit by the red glow of eternal dawns. And as we turn away, letting them fade behind the soft haze of space, we feel something waiting ahead, something even larger than those towers of light, something breathing softly, spinning slowly, pulling at the edge of our thoughts with an invitation we cannot refuse. It is the Milky Way, our second great home, where all those massive stars are nothing more than grains of drifting light in the endless night. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine before you a soft ribbon of mist, glowing pale like a silver scarf floating through the darkness. It isn't real mist. It is the blended light of hundreds of billions of stars, fine as powder, soft as smoke, flowing like a silent river of light. The Milky Way, our vast second home in the cosmos, is not a dot but a gigantic spiral, quietly rotating for billions of years, spinning like an ancient waltz no one can hear. Within that river of light are newborn stars awakening, old stars fading, red giants breathing heavily, blue giants burning brightly to the end of their fate. And among all that wonder, our sun is just a tiny spark, tucked modestly near the edge of a spiral arm, like a small room at the far end of a long hallway in a grand castle. A room we might not even notice, if not for the life trembling quietly inside. We drift past the spiral arms of the Milky Way, where stars gather into glowing cities, bright neighborhoods, then dissolve into darkness again. Each arm is a river of stars, each river holding more worlds than any number humans have ever invented. From afar, the Milky Way looks like a spinning disk, thin as paper, yet so wide that if light were to run from one edge to the other, it would need more than 100,000 years, and that is only its width. When light tries to leave the Milky Way, to fly outward, through layers of gas as thin as breath, past dust grains sparkling like glitter, it must travel tens of thousands more years. All that time, just to leave home. A home so vast that even the giant stars we just admired are nothing more than tiny grains tucked somewhere in a corner. The universe is strange. It takes the largest things we can imagine and turns them into small details of a far greater painting. When we gaze at the Milky Way from the outside, it no longer feels foreign. It feels like a great heart, a heart woven from light, breathing slowly in eternal darkness. And when we realize we live inside such a heart, so vast that words become tiny, there is a tenderness that spreads through the chest, a feeling that even though we are small, we belong to something impossibly beautiful. Right then, at the edge of that spiral river, a new invitation opens, calling us to look even farther, where other galaxies shimmer like millions of lanterns floating in the cosmic night. Now, standing at the outer rim of the Milky Way, the immense home we once thought endless, something gentle brushes the mind. A feeling like opening a window late at night, expecting only the familiar backyard, and instead discovering a wide valley sleeping under the moonlight. In the same way, stepping past the boundary of the Milky Way reveals that this castle of light we live in is only a drifting speck in an infinite sea of sky. A house, no matter how big it is still just a single room inside a palace many times larger. And it is exactly in that moment, when the idea of big keeps stretching out like a thread of light, that we begin to see other points of brightness. At first, so faint, like dewdrops resting on the glass of the night. But if we open our eyes just a little wider, letting our vision spread out like the surface of a still lake, those drops of dew suddenly bloom. Larger, more radiant, and far more numerous than we ever imagined. They are no longer isolated stars. They are galaxies. Each one a city of light, hundreds of billions of times greater than our sun. Imagine we are standing in a nighttime field, where lanterns have been released into the sky in numbers so great you could never hope to count them. Each lantern rises slowly, glows softly, trembles slightly in the wind, and then becomes part of a shimmering festival of light, so beautiful that your heart must slow down just to keep up. The galaxies out there are just like that. They float through space, each one carrying hundreds of billions of stars, billions of worlds, and countless stories that light is still trying to whisper to us through every glimmer. When we look at the Milky Way, the galaxy we once mistook for the whole sky, and compare it to the others, it suddenly becomes strangely small, like a fragile speck of brightness drifting in a river of light, with no beginning and no end. Andromeda, our giant neighbor, shines like a larger, sharper lantern, slowly drifting toward the Milky Way in a dance that will last for billions of years. Farther still are blue spiral galaxies, golden elliptical ones, and tiny galaxies like forgotten islands. Each galaxy is a gateway to a miniature universe of its own. We are no longer looking at individual stars. We are looking at oceans of stars, each region of light holding more worlds than all the grains of sand on every beach on Earth combined. And the strange thing is, as these galaxies appear in ever greater numbers, spreading out like an endless lantern festival, our idea of size continues to dissolve like smoke. Our Earth is just a speck of dust, our sun just a small dot, the Milky Way just a faint glow. Everything that once overwhelmed us now becomes tiny fragments inside a picture so vast that the human mind can hardly hold it. Yet precisely because of that, something very gentle emerges. The farther we look, the smaller we feel, and the more deeply we sense that we belong to this universe in a very special way. Like a grain of dust that can think, can dream, can ask questions that not even galaxies can answer. Someday, there will be the last sunlight on Earth's tunnel. And then, as this festival of lanterns slowly becomes an endless sea of light, something new waits for us even farther on, where galaxies do not stand alone, but gather into gigantic cities linked by invisible roads of light. And while we are still standing quietly within this endless lantern festival, where each galaxy drifts like a glowing bulb over the dark lake of the cosmos, there is a tiny moment, brief as the blink of a distant star, yet enough to change the way we see the entire sky. Because if we let our gaze continue to follow those distant lights, without rushing, simply relaxing as though watching the night wind slip through an open window, we notice something subtle but profound. Those galaxies are not lonely at all. They are not solitary boats drifting across a dark sea. They begin to gather, pulled together by an invisible gravity, clumping into groups like grains of luminous dust, swept into a corner of the porch by a gentle breeze. At first, they are just hazy patches of light, like pale mist hovering over the ground. But the longer we look, the clearer they become. Larger, denser, as if someone is slowly revealing to us the map of an enormous city emerging from the dark. A strange feeling spreads through us, not the kind of awe that tightens the chest, but a gentle widening. Like standing on a hilltop and watching a city below slowly light up for the night. One window turns on, then another, until all those tiny lights weave themselves into a smooth, shimmering network that makes us feel as though we are watching the heartbeat of a colossal heart. The galaxies once thought to be the summit of vastness now become small lamps resting inside something far larger. And from that moment, we are invited into a new layer of understanding, where the universe is no longer made of separate galaxies, but of a vast system of cities of light entwined with one another, influencing one another, drifting through space in a silence so beautiful it steals the breath. Over the ensuing moment, over each breath, imagine we are standing at an unthinkably distant point, so far away that even if each galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, within our field of view right now, all of them, those giant engines of light, shrink into fine specks, as soft as dust on your fingertips. From that distance, Galaxies no longer stand alone. They cluster into huge groups, each group like a brilliant metropolis, crowded and vibrant in its own cosmic way. Each galaxy cluster can hold hundreds, even thousands of galaxies. Picture each galaxy as a single lantern, glowing quietly, and all of those lanterns standing side by side, shining together like a city so vast it cannot be measured. No longer just a few lonely lamps in the night, but an entire glowing metropolis drifting across the deep space. They look like luminous islands floating in the cosmic ocean, where each island is a community of billions of suns and countless planetary systems in orbit. From even farther away, we see them drifting softly, like specks of powder blown about by an invisible wind. No noise, no chaos, no hurried motion, only the quiet movement the universe has kept up patiently for billions of years. That stillness gives the listener the feeling of standing in the night, watching snow fall slowly, each flake catching a little light from a dim street lamp. The most magical thing lies in the invisible connections among these clusters. These are the clusters and clusters. There are no visible threads, no bridges, no roads, no rivers, no sound, and yet they are tightly bound together by the language of gravity. A language without words or light, but strong enough to hold an enormous structure across hundreds of millions of light years. That gravity is like a giant but gentle hand, cradling the clusters and keeping them from drifting away into the endless dark. If we could move closer, though in reality we never could, we would see the clusters constantly interacting, tugging on each other, orbiting one another, sometimes merging in dances that last billions of years. So long that every human civilization is just a blink in that cosmic waltz. And even when they collide, the chaos is neither loud nor violent. It unfolds so slowly it looks like an oil painting gradually changing color under warm light. Looking at these clusters, it's as though the universe is telling us something very small, but very deep. That everything grandest is always the result of connection, of points of light standing side by side, leaning into one another, creating astonishing shapes in the endless dark. And then, once we've grown used to watching these cities of galaxies drift through space, once our minds have softened enough to accept that the universe is larger than every scale we've ever known, the next door quietly begins to open. A door leading us to an even broader, deeper, more intricate horizon where galaxy clusters link together into enormous webs like luminous threads weaving through the void. A place where the universe, instead of being made of scattered points of light, becomes a living network of brightness and darkness, like the circulatory system of some vast being. And that is when we step into the next part of our journey through the cosmic superstructure, where every boundary of our imagination is stretched once more, as gently as a long exhale before sleep. As we go farther still, so far that even the cities of galaxies fade, like the last embers of a late afternoon, the universe reveals something strange. It is not a random, chaotic scatter. Not just dots on black, not flickers drifting without pattern. The entire universe, seen from that impossibly distant vantage point, turns into a colossal web of light. Delicate strands of brightness, stretching hundreds of millions of light years, weave together into a structure so complex that no language can fully capture it. It is like gazing upon the nervous system of the cosmos, like watching the luminous blood vessels of a living body, where each bright point is a place where cosmic life is unfolding, even if it is not the kind of life we know. These glowing filaments are where galaxies gather. They thicken into brighter, denser strands, like rivers of light. In those regions, hundreds of thousands of galaxies crowd together, like houses and neighborhoods glowing side by side. Imagine standing high above, looking down at a gigantic city at night. The lights don't lie scattered randomly. They form streets, squares, flowing streams of traffic. The universe is just like that. Except everything is so vast, that it would take billions of years for your gaze to cross from one point to another. And the most beautiful part lies in the empty spaces. Vast, dark regions where nothing seems to be. No stars, no air, no dust, no light. Just pure emptiness, like the deep inhale of the night. These regions spread wide like shadowy valleys laid between shining mountain ranges, giving the impression of looking at an immense relief map, where the mountains are light and the seas are darkness. That contrast creates a strange beauty, a kind of cosmic aesthetic no artist could truly recreate with paint or line. Picture yourself floating billions of light years away from that luminous web. From there, everything looks like a hand-woven tapestry, but each thread in that tapestry is hundreds of galaxies. And each galaxy is hundreds of billions of stars. The tapestry is not still. It stretches, contracts, quivers softly with the ancient breathing of the universe. Each time gravity pulls a region a little closer, the thread brightens. Each time another region swells with expansion, the light fades, like fingertips touching the surface of water and then gently withdrawing. And then we notice something that makes the heart pause. This gigantic web is the true shape of the observable universe. The universe is not a messy scatter. It is not just a pile of random stars. It is a structure, an architecture, a poem written in gravity and time. Over billions upon billions of years, these threads keep weaving, tugging, stretching, enchanting every gaze patient enough to look far enough. And we, in this brief moment along the journey, can only stand still and breathe softly, feeling ourselves as a speck drifting in an ocean far too vast to understand, but too beautiful not to feel. At peace within, and as the image of this glowing web slowly fades into the infinite dark, like a dream closing its final door, we become sharply aware that we are standing at the edge of what can be understood. A strange frontier where everything humans know is only a thin sliver of light floating on an endless black sea. From that silent pause, like a deep breath before stepping into another room, we begin to see something curious. All that we observe, all the light that has traveled to our eyes from afar, all the galaxies, all the clusters, all the cosmic threads, exist only within a small bubble that the human mind can reach. That very smallness gently opens the next part of our journey. Soft as the wind, bowing to the night, toward what we call the observable universe. Imagine you are standing in a dark room with a single lamp placed before you. Its light spreads out, but only to a certain distance before melting into shadow. Your eyes can only see what lies inside that circle of light, while everything beyond its edge still exists, but in silence, invisible, beyond your reach. The observable universe is just like that, not because there is nothing outside, but because the light from those regions has not yet had time to reach the place where we are standing. And the fastest thing humanity knows still needs time to travel. And that time is so long that the very moment we observe it becomes a natural limit in itself. So the universe we can see is only a small sphere, not because the universe is actually spherical, but because light reaches us from every direction, forming a circular boundary around us. An invisible glass shell, holding us like a fragile sphere, delicate and beautiful, but limited. Inside, everything glows with hundreds of billions of galaxies. Outside is pure darkness. Not empty, just not yet lit. And the most beautiful thing is, this glass box grows with time. Every second, it stretches a little more. Every second, light from even farther places finally arrives and, like a gentle call, opens a door into regions that were previously unseen. As you sit here now, breathing slowly and listening to this story, that glass shell is expanding, growing larger, drawing into itself more and more light that has just finished its journey of tens of billions of years. It is like a clear lake slowly rising, filling in every empty hollow where only cold wind used to live. But no matter how big it becomes, that shell is still heartbreakingly small compared to the true universe. All the light we can see exists within a sphere about 93 billion light-years across. That enormous number sounds like a dream beyond imagination. Yet the even more astonishing part is what we cannot see. Everything beyond that sphere, where light has never had time to reach us, may stretch on to infinity. No edge, no walls, no bottom, no peak. Only a shoreless ocean where every human measurement becomes useless. When we think about this, a very strange feeling begins to spread inside us. A gentle kind of humility. Not the overwhelming kind that makes us afraid, but a quiet peace, like standing before the sea at night and understanding that no matter how vast it is, each small wave touching your feet is still something familiar and kind. The universe is too vast to understand, and precisely because of that, we are allowed to breathe deeper, softer, knowing that our smallness is not something frightening. It is simply a truthful part of our existence. And if we let our inner ear grow still for a moment, as though listening to wind brushing through pine branches, we can sense the breathing of that infinity, a slow, long, gentle breath, like an ancient meditation. That rhythm reminds us that every time we look up at the night sky, we are not just staring into a patch of darkness. We are looking at the boundary of human limitation itself, a limit that is beautiful, thin, fragile, and yet full of hope. Because each year, that boundary moves farther away. Each year, the glass shell grows larger. And each year, humanity takes one more small step into the waiting sea of darkness. And as we stand at the edge of this enormous glass sphere, where light from 93 billion light-years away kisses the final frontier of human sight, a very strange feeling begins to flow through us. A feeling as soft as the darkness gently placing its hand upon our shoulder, not to threaten, but to remind us that, from here onward, every thought is just a footstep in the mist, as though the universe itself is leaning slightly toward us, inviting us to take another step, not to understand, but to feel. And in that moment, right at the border between what is known and what is unknown, the ending quietly appears like a small wooden chair in an old house at night. Warm, gentle, and just wide enough for us to sit down, exhale very slowly, and look back at the entire journey we've just walked through. Perhaps the most beautiful thing we've learned from tonight's wandering through the universe is not the numbers, not the sizes, and not even the layers of truth that reach beyond imagination. The most beautiful thing is the gentle realization that the universe is so vast, the mind can never fully contain it, and because of that, it becomes a meditation, a space where we can put down our need to understand and simply be. When we look at the immense map of the observable universe, we see hundreds of billions of galaxies, like tiny grains of light, clinging to one another. But when we close our eyes, we see something else. We see ourselves sitting at the center of an endless night ocean, where distances stretch like long, slow breaths, where galaxies drift by as softly as autumn leaves floating on the wind, where time is no longer a row of numbers, but the faint heartbeat of a song that has never truly ended. Within that immensity, we understand something simple yet profound. We are small, but we are not lost. The smallness of human beings is not a flaw. It is part of the beauty. Like a speck of dust resting on the page of an ancient book, so tiny it's hard to see, yet still part of what makes the story complete. Each one of us, with our worries, hopes, and quiet dreams, is a little note in the symphony of an infinite universe. And when we realize this, a very soft calm washes over us, a peace that comes from knowing we don't have to understand everything. We don't have to control everything. We don't have to find a reason for every mystery. In a universe so vast that light must run for billions of years just to reach us, the small burdens of life suddenly return to their true size, small, very small. so small that we can finally exhale and set them down. Imagine that right now, you are lying beneath a wide sky where the stars are no longer distant points of light, but the visible breaths of time itself. They are not racing toward you to reveal some secret. They simply exist, quietly, to remind you that this world is so vast that you can safely allow yourself to be small. You don't have to strain. You don't always have to be strong. You don't have to understand it all. You only need to breathe. With each inhale, you draw that vastness a little closer. With each exhale, you let it drift away without demanding anything from it. Slowly, the distance between you and the universe is no longer billions of light years. It narrows down to a single heartbeat, a single breath, a single moment of stillness in the night. And in that moment, you realize all those grand things, from cosmic superstructures to distant galaxies, do not exist to frighten you, but to remind you that there is a very deep beauty moving quietly alongside the smallness of human life. When we look back over the path we've walked tonight, from Earth to the solar system to giant stars, then galaxies, and finally the edge of the observable universe, it feels as though we've strolled through a vast forest where each step was a lesson, each canopy a whisper, and each patch of darkness a reminder that infinity does not always exist to terrify us. That sometimes infinity itself becomes a soft blanket wrapping around our hearts. And so, when you lie down and let your eyes close, remember that you are not lost in the universe. You are being held by it, gently and patiently, like a mother holding a child who is tired after a long day. Let your mind drift, like a small boat on a sea of stars. Let your worries sink below the calm surface. Let the stars become lanterns, guiding you into deep sleep. The universe is so vast that we will never touch all of its corners. But that doesn't matter, because this one little corner, where you are lying, where you are breathing, where you are listening, is already enough for you to feel all of its tenderness. Sleep well, deeply, under the sky where everything first began.